In these difficult times, even as we are sequestered in our homes, unable to travel as we did, nor meet socially or on business, JLF, the Jaipur Literature Festival, are delighted to collaborate with Frankfurt Book Fest Digital. They have followed the age-old adage, the show must go on. For what is the world without literature and the arts? Today, our session on Brave New World is COVID and the arts, and it explores the resilience and innovation from the arts to the isolation and extreme disruptions of the pandemic. Writers, artists, and book lovers speak of responding to unforeseen challenges and the creativity and solidarity that rose to the fore through these difficult times. Our speakers today include Dr. Shashi Tharoor, an author, politician, and former international civil servant. Dr. Tharoor straddles several worlds of experience, including presently serving the third term of the Lok Sabha as a member of India's parliament, representing the Thiruvananthapuram constituency. He has previously served as Minister of State for Human Resource Development and Minister of State for External Affairs in the Government of India. He currently chairs the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information and Technology. Dr. Tharoor, welcome, and thank you for taking time out. How has the pandemic impacted your public life and your inner world as a writer?
The COVID pandemic has been a rough time for many of us, stifling our lifestyles, making it impossible for writers to attend literary festivals, to give talks, to meet people, and to pursue their lives and in the normal way that they've usually done these things. But at the same time, if one could find it in oneself to focus during these deprivations, it was actually an excellent time for creativity, because what many of us found ourselves doing, and I certainly can vouch for this, is to use the time of the cancelled meetings, the cancelled journeys and trips that couldn't be made, the cancelled social occasions, and use that time to put finger to keyboard and pen to paper. In my case, I was able to complete one book and write the bulk of another. The first one is somewhat light-hearted romp through 53 words that I was fascinated by, with anecdotes, their etymology, their usage. It was called Tharoorosaurus for Penguin India, and it's already out and racing reasonably well up the bestseller charts. And then my magnum opus on nationalism. I'm not sure that without the COVID pandemic, I would have found the time to do the extensive research, writing and rewriting required to get that book into shape. But it will be out in November from Aleph Book Company under the title The Battle of Belonging. So a productive pandemic lockdown phase for me, as elements of the unlocking have progressed in India, Parliament has resumed, my work has picked up pace, and even social obligations are slowly re-entering my life. I'm pleased to say that I have some creative experience to look back upon and a couple of books to show for it.
Thank you, Dr. Tharoor. Please stay safe, and thank you for being on the show. As you know, the Frankfurt Book Fair and JLF is deeply appreciative of your joining us today. Our next speaker, Namita Gokhale, is an award-winning writer, publisher, and festival director. She is the author of 19 books, including 10 works of fiction. Gokhale is the founder and co-director of the Jaipur Literature Festival. She is also one of the founder directors of Yatra Books, a publishing house specialized in translation. Namita, thank you for joining us. Tell us, has there been an upshot, if any, brought about by this pandemic, not just for you as a writer, but for the world?
We at JLF have discovered an entire new digital vocabulary. It's been a year of despair, and yet 2020 has also been a year of new doors and windows opening, of new technologies, new platforms, ways to connect and to bring together a synergy of image, word and text that brings the narratives of our times into our homes and hearts. So here is to the brave new world, which we are on the very brink of.
Thank you, Namita, for joining us in your favorite book fair. I hope we'll be able to travel back to Frankfurt together next year. Our next speaker, Marcus de Sotoy, is the Simoini Professor for the Public Understanding of Science and Professor of Mathematics at the University of Oxford. He is the author of 6 books, including the recent The Creativity Code. He has presented numerous radio and television programs, including a 4-part TV series for the BBC called The Story of Math. He received an OBE for services to science in the 2010 New Year's Honours List and was made a Fellow of the Royal Society in 2016. Marcus, has the pandemic accelerated innovation through the digital world, and how have you coped with these very difficult times?
Lockdown here in London certainly felt like it was knocking me off my tracks. So I decided I should put myself on perhaps a new set of tracks. So I decided to start learning Sanskrit. This was partly motivated by the fact that I had this idea to do a new project to write a play about one of my favourite mathematical characters, André Weil, French mathematician, who spent some time in India and was very obsessed with the Bhagavad Gita. So I thought to get into character, he'd learnt Sanskrit and enjoyed reading the Bhagavad Gita, that perhaps in order to write about this character, I would spend a bit of time learning Sanskrit, reading bits of the Bhagavad Gita, and that actually helped me to make this character and write a play. And then I thought, actually, given the pandemic has closed many theatres, perhaps a crazy time to be writing a play. So I then spent some time trying to readapt it and write it as a film script. So it's still a project that's growing in development, but lockdown kind of put me on a new set of tracks, and that was in some sense quite exciting.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Stay safe, stay masked. Our next speaker is K.R. Meera. She's a writer and winner of the Kendra and Kerala Sahitya Academy Awards, and her novel Arachar has sold around 150,000 copies, and its translation Hangwoman was shortlisted for the DSC Prize. Her work includes The Poison of Love, The Gospel of Judas, The Unseeing Idol of Light, Yellow is the Color of Longing, and The Angel's Beauty Spots. K.R. Meera, tell us, many writers and artists have found it so difficult to be productive during COVID-19. They've had to juggle with their personal time and their space and adapt to the routine in this, really problematic world, including all the chores that you have to do. How have you coped in this time?
In the beginning of the lockdown, I was not much worried because I had already planned 3 books in 2020, and I thought this is the perfect time to finish them. But as days passed and as the exodus of migrant laborers started from the cities to the villages in India, I realized that it is going to be more difficult than I thought. So I decided to write every day, because as I grow old, these things happening around me affect me very deeply. So I have been writing every day for the past 6 months, and I have finished 2 books. One is a short novel, the other one is considerably long with about 56 chapters. But I continue to write because that's the only way I can stay emotionally stable in these weird times. This pandemic has taught me 2 lessons. One is that we need to be socially and emotionally connected to our surroundings, to the people around us, to survive. Secondly, we need some form of art for that connection. At the center of resilience, there will be one book or a story or some form of art for sure. Look at the increasing number of online art classes and book reviews going around us. At the center of my resilience is my writings, my books, and I write to stay sane, to stay emotionally stable, and to rejuvenate. Thank you.
Thank you, K.R. Meera, and hopefully you keep writing and stay resilient and stay anchored. And in your writing, anchor us all and make sense of our times. Thank you. Our next speaker is Kanishk Gupta, a literary agent, writer, and publishing commentator best known for his ongoing series for Scroll.in called Publishing and the Pandemic. He's the founder of Writer's Side, the largest literary agency and consultancy in South Asia. He's been credited for single-handedly popularizing literary representation in the subcontinent. His first novel was longlisted for the Asian Booker Prize in 2009 and was published by a major Indian press in 2010. Kanishk, how has your work as an agent been affected? Have people been writing, have writers been writing and sending you their work even in the midst of this time? Have they made sense of what's happening around us? So is this basically work that was already in progress and they've been able to complete it given the hiatus in our lives? Tell us how you have been able to cope with the pandemic.
As far as I can see, this fraught and rather unprecedented period has been characterized by three features. The first being disruption. The disruption has been very immense and pervasive, and it hasn't spared any publishing house or division processes of publishing, be it editorial, sales, marketing, distribution. However, this disruption has led to a lot of innovation in publishing, and I was quite pleasantly surprised as well as pleased to see how publishing houses in India, big, medium, small, were able to transition from offline to online, and they have been able to maintain a high level of productivity and efficiency despite not having access to a lot of things physically. The third feature of the pandemic and its impact on publishing in particular, again, is something which is very positive, and that's resilience. I have, for the last 6 to 7 months, been curating a fairly ambitious series on publishing for Scroll. The whole idea behind the series was to capture the voices, the stories, and the tribulations and challenges of different stakeholders in publishing, be it publishers, authors, agents, freelancers, booksellers. And one thing I noticed in all these stories was the reluctance to give up, to shut shop, to move on. People have been very resilient, and I think this is what is the most heartening part of publishing at a time like this.
Kanik, thank you so much, and may you continue this brilliant series that you've started. I've been reading them regularly, and they're so beautifully curated and written. So may you continue. More power to your pen. Our next speaker is Urvashi Bulalia, feminist writer and publisher. She co-founded Kali for Women, India's first feminist publishing house. And when Kali closed down in 2003, she set up Zuban, a feminist publishing house of which she is now director. She has had a long involvement in the women's movement in India and writes and publishes widely on issues related to women and gender. Her best-known published work is the award-winning history of partition titled The Other Side of Silence, Voices from the Partition of India. She's currently completing a new non-fiction work on the life of a trans woman. Urvashi, at the best of times, niche publishing has been so difficult, both in terms of financial resources and of course in distribution, and you and Zuban have always struggled. Has the pandemic thrown up new solutions?
The pandemic and the lockdown have changed things a lot for all of us. For me personally, as a woman, a publisher, a writer, and for me professionally as a publisher. I mean, being at home 24/7, you have much more time to think and perhaps do or catch up on the things that you were not able to do earlier. So for me specifically, I have always abandoned my writing or given it a secondary place, and it's given me a little time to catch up with that. But in terms of our publishing, we have also had to rethink, because to be without physical books, to not be able to sell a book or produce a book, that's a death knell for a publisher. So how do you keep books alive? And how do you understand people's reading patterns? And how do you then make the move that we have always talked about but never done, that is to the digital? How do you make that move meaningfully? So one of the things we did in Zuban was to start putting all our books up as ebooks, so that the entire backlist also comes alive again. That's the first step. And I think many publishers are doing this. And I think for us, the next step is, how can you take the digital further? And how can you actually face the reality that the world of print publishing may be forever changed by this? Perhaps reduced. It won't entirely disappear, but maybe the scale will become smaller. Maybe we'll have to think differently. So that challenge has been both very exciting and sometimes worrying, because really you don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you, Urvashi, and thank you and Zuban for bringing out these beautiful pieces of writing and having us, the reader, understand the many different voices of women. Our last speaker today is Ananth Padmanabhan, CEO of HarperCollins India, responsible for the HarperCollins and Collins Learning divisions in India. He joined HarperCollins in 2015, and over a career spanning 2 decades, Ananth has extensively experience in developing sales, distribution, and marketing strategy in publishing. Ananth Padmanabhan, kids and their parents have been locked in, not necessarily happily, and someone out there has thrown away the key. How have you been able to address the issue as a publisher? Have you been able to get kids' books across, the academic books? And how have you brought new writing out in this very difficult time?
This pandemic has taught us a lot of things, including to conduct our business almost entirely using a screen and a computer. If you set aside the fact that all of us have been at home since almost the middle of March, this has been a period of extraordinary creativity, best ever yet, if you ask me. We've had to think about a lot of things, and the fundamentals are how do you continue publishing very good books, and how do you make sure readers are able to discover new books, buy new books in a period of lockdown when physical bookstores are not open and almost everything is online. How do you replicate the idea of discoverability, of discovering new voices, new books, and also making sure that the best books, the comfort of a good book, your backlist also sells and gets to readers. In India, HarperCollins are also an education publisher. Over 5 million kids use Collins textbooks. We had to migrate, and all the kids have been at home since the lockdown. So we had to migrate our entire education catalog online and create new models and platforms for teachers and educators, for parents and for school kids, so that the education is seamless. And the innovation in online meant that you could load up a bit of entertainment in our learning process and in the education process. It's been a period when we've thought about how, in a market like India, where books were largely physical and ebooks were small, we've been able to double our ebook sales. We've been able to increase our audio sales because people leveraged the digital medium and the fact that they were at home to discover all new formats of books. A lot of our authors have also managed to use this time to finish books. We've received extraordinary submissions in this period. And I think the focus is that the world has changed. It's not going to be the one that we are used to. And we have to think about every aspect of how we publish and what's going to come up in the future.
Thank you, Ananth Padmanabhan. We can only hope that this too shall pass, and in its passing, we will collectively emerge more resilient and with greater appreciation of our space, of our environment, and the belief that art matters. Thank you, Frankfurt Book Fair, Jürgen Boos, Claudia Kaiser, and Aljana Albert from the GBO India. Stay safe, stay masked, and we promise to return in 2021 to the Frankfurt Book Fair.